First on film and entertainment, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all and sundry. And we've got the team together. We have got Jaqui Hammerton, we have got Peter Krause, we've got Greg King. So it's a happy bunch of Vegemites. And I've got to say to you that I'm missing my football, Gregory King. I mean, I've been watching the women's game and I've actually got a little bit out of it because the Mighty Bombers are winning. But, what do I do for 6 months, Greg? I'm watching England sort of trounce, Pakistan in the cricket and stuff like that, and the spring racing carnival. But can't we have football 2 seasons in a year, men's competition, Greg? Can't we?
I know how it feels to go 6 months without football, but there's so many other things you can do, Alex. Books to read, films to watch, lots of cultural things to do. It doesn't matter. I actually find I have more time now to do some things.
Oh, do you? No. Well, the interesting thing is this week I spoke to one of the publicists and they said to me, would you be interested in reviewing a book? And I said, well, I don't traditionally, I read a lot of news, but I don't traditionally have a lot of time to read a book. What's it about? And they said AFL football. Suddenly, yes, exactly. I started drooling at that point, Greg. Now, that's how desperate I've become. Can you relate to that, Jaqui Hammerton? Because you're a Melbourne supporter and everything about Melbourne has been toxic in recent times, correct?
Oh, Alex, welcome to First on Film and Entertainment. I'm JR.
I am being entertained, so it's all right. It's legitimate. You can answer the question as a long-suffering Demon supporter.
Oh, right. What was the question? Was it about film or was it about football?
Well, it could be about film and football. As for film and football, Peter Krause, I mean, you're the doyen, are you not? You and football are like sliced cheese and the nuclear bomb.
I have just spoken to the director of Like My Brother about 4 young women aspiring to be in the AFLW, would you believe?
Really?
Wow.
Yes. Okay, so if that is the case, would you go along and watch them if they make it?
No.
Is that what's called empathy for the cause?
No. It's a good film and the story's interesting, but I still am not interested in football. Full stop.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. And I wanted to take you along. I still want to take you along to a game of football. You might change your mind. May you not? Could you not?
Never. Could you not? In my wildest dreams.
But you care deeply and passionately about me, so you're showing your commitment to the cause. Doesn't
deeply and passionately? Oh, my goodness. When did that happen?
I'm making it happen. That's the sort of guy that I am. Isn't that a good thing?
Oh, how passionate you are.
Yeah, now, I want to start talking about the role of the critic, because that's what we are. And I've had quite a few discussions about this over the last couple of weeks because the film has recently opened called The Critic. And my opinion is that we are not as important as a collective as we were in the past when, for example, reading the next day's paper was critically important to the success of a show or indeed a movie. With so many influences, things are changing. And I'm not saying it's for the better or for the worse. I'm just saying the status quo is, well, somebody else may have seen it, and if they recommend it, I'll go along and see it, but otherwise don't worry about it. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I think there are 2 issues here. One is that people now regard critics mainly only for the bigger pictures, the tentpole films and so on, and if they align with their views, then they'll go and see it. But secondly, the role of the critic now, I think, is to promote and push independent, low-budget Australian films and overseas films that the audience needs to pay attention to.
But hang on, that's surely that's showing your personal bias here. I mean, you can't say that's the role of the critic. It is a role of a critic if that wants to be the role of the critic, not critics in general. I disagree with that because, I mean, ultimately, I too, we see so many movies. I long to see something vive la différence, something that is challenging, etc. But there are a lot of people out there who won't go and see foreign language movies, who simply want to see the big blockbusters. So have we not got a role to play is talking about the big blockbusters still?
Well, yes and no. I mean, people get so much social media and see other people review things that professional critics like us are not necessarily paid attention to.
It's interesting. This is the experience I had during this week, Jackie. This will not surprise you one iota. There is a person who, believe it or not, unlike your good self, likes to follow what I say and do and write and so forth. And I highly recommended that they go and see The Substance. They were horrified. They actually said to me, they rang me and said, my husband says I should not follow you anymore. How does one respond to that, Jackie?
Well, I totally agree with that person. But I would say it's not necessarily that anyone in the wider community with access to social media or anything less even can talk about a film or a book for that matter or anything. The word review is a bit strong. I would say usually influencers promote because, you know, they're not being discretionary about it. They're not being critical about it as a critic may be. It's just more in the realm of promotion rather than critiquing.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know whether you saw the article only in the last
24
hours about Jessica Chastain on an aircraft. Have you read that, or any of you? No?
No.
Okay.
No, don't read the gossip columns.
Yep. What about your life, Jackie? Life about there, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. There's enough going on in my life without reading.
Okay. So there was she lodged a sort of an online complaint, I think on I think it was X or one of these platforms, whereby the entertainment system wasn't working on the aircraft, and everybody on the aircraft was. Well, she didn't know this at the time, but she was offered a $15 refund. I think this was in the United States, right? And she still complained about it, and then people sort of complained about her complaints, saying that she's entitled and all that sort of stuff, and it went on and on and on. So it became, rather than a praising, it became a criticism, and somebody who obviously is seen to be high profile and in not so much in need of resourcing as other people. So it's fascinating that
which has absolutely nothing to do with being a critic. Where did that come from, Alex?
Well, I suppose that she assumed the role as somebody with a public profile of criticism of an airline because it didn't provide the service.
Look, you're confusing the word criticism with a critic or critiquing something.
I'm deliberately doing this to inflame the debate, and I'm talking to you.
You're being highly successful once again in inflaming debates.
As I've said many times, my job is to make you utterly exasperated. Have I succeeded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Greg, you read a lot of books, but you're a film critic. Have you ever been a book critic? I've
written a few book reviews for the Blurb.
Right, and again, are you just as vociferous in your commentary when you're reviewing a book as you are a film?
Probably only review books that I like.
I'm
not going to waste time reviewing a book I don't like. But even if I read a book I struggle with, I'll still finish the book. I'll return it to the library, but that's about as far as I'll go. But if there's a book I really like, I fly through and I feel, I've enjoyed, I like to share that with some people. And the same thing with CD reviews. I've written a few of them in the past as well, with CDs of people I like and I just want to review the record. So, yeah, I do branch out a bit, Alex.
Okay, so here's the question. When you don't like something, and this is quite frequent for Peter and Jackie, when you don't like something, is it easier to be critical than it is to be praiseworthy, or is it more enjoyable to be critical than praiseworthy as a critic, Peter Krause?
Neither. I think I call it as I see it, and I can just as easily review and criticise a good film or film that I've really enjoyed, as well as a film that I didn't enjoy. So I don't think it makes any difference.
I think that's why you're a little bit. If there's something you really enjoy or something you really dislike, you are a bit more passionate with your writing about it. I think you are able to express yourself a lot better. If it's something that's just you struggle a little bit to write about it as much. I think things you really enjoy or really dislike, your writing is stronger.
I totally agree with you, Greg. I think that
I've done something wrong. You're agreeing with me, Alex.
I am, but because if it's middle of the road, you kind of it is. It's sort of it was okay, and you sort of then struggling a bit more to sort of say balance, put the balance in there, and so. You can still say what you liked and didn't like, but you don't walk out of there. So because I remember that film that I can't remember the name of, ironically, the one with Dame Judi Dench, set in the British medical system in a hospital that came out. I think it was last year or the year before. Had some really fine actors in it, and it was just a PR exercise for the British Health Service. And I loathed that film. I thought it was absolutely disgraceful, and whoever cared to listen, I said, I was going to use another word, but don't go along and see it. You're never going to get those 2 hours back. And I felt really strongly about it. Likewise, we talked about the new Joker movie, or we will be talking about the new Joker movie. I thought that the original one was extraordinary, and I highly recommend it. Or there's a number of other movies over the distance that I really felt strongly about and urged people to see. The same thing about theatre. I've seen 3 extraordinary performances this year. One, by the way, which is coming back, which I will, seeing we're talking about it, I'll mention it now. If any of you can go along and see Murder for Two at the Art Centre, which is coming back in early December, it's one of the great, great, great shows that I've seen. And it'll be at the Fairfax at the Art Centre. It was amazing how much love it got, and I knew nothing about it going in. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, Jackie, what about your views on criticism and whether it's hang on.
Greg took the words out of my mouth. Of course, it's much easier to write if you've got stronger feelings about something.
Okay. Well, so this is where you can be critical of me at any time, Jackie. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk about the movie. It's 99 minutes. It's called The Critic, and it is rated M. And I suppose it does really ask the question, what weight should one assign to The Critic? And enormous if there's any truth to what's contained in what is a searing period drama. It's period drama come thriller. And we're talking about London in 1934. And for 4 decades, the character played by Ian McKellen, who's known as Jimmy Erskine, has been the chief drama critic of a newspaper that doesn't exist called the Daily Chronicle. And he's arrogant. He's entitled. He's noted for his poison pen. And he wields that pen as a sword of honour. And really, the reason he does this, in a sense, is that such is his power that he can make or break careers. So Jimmy, well, he's gay. He drinks like a fish. And he's got a young male assistant played by Alfie Enoch. An actress who's been trying to win his favour for a decade is Nina Land. And she's played by Gemma Arterton. Yet, inevitably, she's merely received his vitriol. And yet, after another scathing review of her latest performance, her mother, Annabelle, played by Leslie Manville, encourages the actor to confront Jimmy in person, which she does. And then on the eve of another show opening in which she's the lead, Nina is a nervous wreck and decides to ask Jimmy for advice. Little does she know it, but in time he'll use their association to instigate a nefarious plan. Because in the background, the Daily Chronicle newspaper is undergoing change. The former owner who first employed Jimmy has passed away. And his son, David Brooke, played by Mark Strong, has assumed control of the paper. And Brooke's out to reinvigorate the newspaper, and Jimmy's far from safe because of the venom in his writing and the way that he personally conducts himself. So when Jimmy appears to be cornered, he uses Nina who is desperately chasing fame and acclamation in a sordid game that will have dire consequences. And this is a reimagining of a novel called Curtain Call by Anthony Quinn. I thought it was a really compelling piece of work. It's written by Patrick Marber, who did Notes on a Scandal, directed by Anand Tucker, who was responsible for When Did You Last See Your Father? Very well written, I thought. Very well executed likewise. Strong sense of exploitation is its stock in trade, and it deals with picking soft spots and turning the screws to breaking point. Reminded me, I think I'm right in saying it was a British politician called Lord Acton, a 19th century polly, who said that power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That was Lord Acton, was it not, folks? Yes? No? No recollection of that statement? Okay. Well, no. Ian McKellen delivers, I thought, one of the performances of his long and storied career. He is really expressive, he's vituperative, seemingly with an answer for everything in playing the role of Jimmy. And Gemma Arterton is demonstrative as Nina Land. She's vulnerable. She's also driven to succeed at all costs. I thought the production values, the period detail in the Critic was very good, in which the tangled web of deceit and blackmail makes for quite thrilling entertainment. So that was my thought on the Critic. Did you bear criticism of the Critic, Jacqueline?
The Critic for me is just about the complete package of a really enjoyable film, enjoyable entertainment. I think it was, there wasn't really much I didn't like about it. I just sat there and got involved into that thickening threads of this plot, even more tangled. And it's so theatrical. It's got that vintage flavour right through it, and the close-ups and the lighting, that kind of dim lighting as, nefarious things are going on. The acting's beautiful, led by Ian McKellen, as you said, is just like, wow. He is amazing in this.
It's like a Tim Tam biscuit, the best you could ever have. He was so compelling, Jackie. I agree with you.
Only if you like Tim Tam biscuits. Otherwise,
hang on.
It's just great acting.
Who doesn't like Tim Tam biscuits? Do you not like Tim Tams? This is going to cause controversy here. Do you not like a Tim Tam?
Yes, but I prefer Ian McKellen.
Right. There was actually
in this role. I just think he's masterful in this. He's memorable and masterful. But it's also because the whole stage is set for him in that lighting and the language and this quite old-fashioned kind of plotting going on. It's a very vintage flavour through the film The Critic, and in fact all of the cast I think are brilliant. I like all of the cast and all of the characters that they portray. And much as he's horrible, the Critic, much as he is a horrible person, I couldn't hate him because, he's manipulative and cruel, and I wouldn't want him as my friend, and I wouldn't want him as my enemy either. But I just really enjoyed watching him and seeing what he was up to.
I think that's an interesting juxtaposition, because I'm not sure how many actors could actually pull this off, so that he's the epitome of evil on the one hand. On the other hand, you sort of appreciate the bombast. That's kind of...
Alex. It's the twinkle in the eye, I think, that gets you through this, because he is playing a game here, and this is just in his nature to be manipulative and to be self-serving and pompous and always going for what's going to be the best outcome for himself. He's a pretty horrible person, really.
Now I make a bet here that Peter is going to be contraire, because he's just the recalcitrant. Are you a contraire recalcitrant? Yes, come on, tell me. What didn't you like about the Critic, Peter?
I revel in being a recalcitrant.
Yes.
But everyone's a critic.
It's a middle name, isn't it? It's Peter R. Krause, correct?
Thank you very much. Yes, of course. Okay. Look, Patrick Marber did such a good job on Notes on a Scandal. That was an increasingly volatile drama, very well written, excellent character creation. I think he's dropped the ball in writing The Critic. He's given a terrific role, or written a terrific role for Ian McKellen, and for his role as a trenchant theatre critic in the 1930s. But he has underwritten everyone else's part in the film, and so the focus is purely on him, and we don't really see the machinations that the other characters and other roles have in this increasingly histrionic and melodramatic film. Which
sorry, just pause you for a moment. When you say that, what more would you have liked to have seen for the Gemma Arterton character, Nina Land?
Well, her character is somewhat undefined. Yes, she's an aspiring actress and she wants to do well and all that, but that's a cliche. And I don't think her role was written in a particularly erudite sort of way, which is disappointing.
Sorry, when you say that's a cliche, there'd be a lot of people out there who want to make it, right? And scrap away at it, etc., etc. Why is that a cliche in the sense that there are, I mean, if I know people myself who have been struggling forever to be recognised in their particular craft. Where would you have liked that to have gone? I'm curious.
Well, because of the way she's used as a character in the film, yes, I agree that of course there are lots of struggling actors and all that, but we know that. We've seen that in countless films. But there's nothing particularly unusual, different, special about her characterization. Same goes with Mark Strong's newspaper sort of character, which is just underwritten, and Leslie Manville has very little to do.
Yeah, I think Leslie Manville. I agree. This is, by the way, just to remind people, she plays Nina Land's mother. Gemma Arterton's character's mother is called Annabelle in the film, and yeah, I mean, she's sort of exasperated, but she doesn't have a great deal to do, and she's a very fine actor. I accept that criticism. I'm not sure about the other, but that, yeah, please go on.
Okay, so what happens with this film is that it becomes a murder mystery. It becomes an issue of being gay, which of course was illegal at the time. The issue of emerging politics and fascism, which the film skirts around, and the whole notion.
Sorry, I'm going to pause you again. Isn't that good that there are a series of subplots that that a good movie can do that? And I didn't see a problem with that. Why do you struggle with that?
I don't have a problem with a number of issues that a film deals with, but these were subplots that were underdeveloped and were just thrown in, which without any real reason or cause. It just seemed to me that Patrick Marber had developed a screenplay about a critic and thrown in lots of other things because he was not confident that the audience would identify and be interested in such a somewhat malevolent character. So let's have some sympathy areas, some political and social areas. For me, the film was not a mess, but underdeveloped in the most part. And so that's what I found disappointing.
Greg?
Yes.
Well, your view.
I agree with a lot that's been said before. I thought Ian McKellen was having the time of his life with this role here, playing up to the nastiness of his character there, and he was reveling in some of the dialogue there. The film also looks good. There's great production design, I thought, and cinematographer David Higgs has shot the film in that sort of warm golden glow that gives it that nostalgic feel there. But I agree that some of the characters are a bit underwritten, like Mark Strong's newspaper editor, and I agree with Leslie Manville as the actress's mother there, given very little to do and is wasted there. I liked Alfred Enoch as Tom Tucker, who was sort of the moral compass of the film in some ways there, sort of resisting some of Jimmy Erskine's more outward behaviour there. But yeah, it does raise a few issues about the social political Where Jimmy,
I think a jet aircraft just landed in your backyard. I didn't hear what you just said then.
probably Peter's backyard, isn't it?
Peter,
No, Grand Prix is not on.
with these paper thin walls of yours, could you get somebody in and sort of triple or quadruple their size, their width? What's going on in your place? The Grand Prix isn't there again, is it yet?
No, in fact, there is no noise coming from my area at the moment, so it's not me.
Not yet. There you go, Greg. A plane's landed in your backyard. Is that right?
A plane wouldn't land in my backyard. It's nowhere for it to land. I don't have a backyard.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe on the roof of your building.
I don't think so. It'd take someone of Sully's skill to do that, wouldn't it?
Well, good. Yeah, we can give Sully a due credit. I mean, he's quite. Sully's retired, hasn't he?
Probably.
I think he has. Anyway, sorry, Greg. We're into criticism. Keep on going with the critic.
I can't remember where I was when that plane landed. Sorry.
Pick it up on the left.
The social. The stuff about the social and political landscape of 1930s England, where Ian McKellen's homosexuality he runs the risk of being imprisoned because of his nocturnal furtive encounters with young men in the park there, which is played up there, which comes out strongly there. But I thought Ian McKellen relished the role. The camera also works in a lot of close-up at the time, which became a bit uncomfortable at times, I thought.
Yes.
Close-ups on Ian McKellen's face and Tom's face there. And as I said, Tom is the sort of moral compass of the film, I think, here, as he points out that he resists some of Jimmy's manipulations.
Yeah, it's interesting you talking about looking at the face of Ian McKellen. Very I think it's an amazing face. It's got that lived-in quality to it. Maybe that's what happens. What age is Ian McKellen now? He'd be in his late 80s, or am I'm guessing that, but I don't know. Does anybody know?
I'll look it up for you while we talk.
Oh, that sounds good. All right. Well, look, I think it's time for some scores. And Jackie, you and I are going to give it good marks. And I dare say that Peter's going to draw down. So, okay, let's start with you, Jackie. The critic rated it.
1939.
There you go. So 1939. Okay. So hang on. I've got
85.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I think I read that he's had some health issues, or
apparently had a fall
upstate
a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, it's shocking. All right.
A critic did it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, black humour. There we go. Jackie, what's your score for the critic? Hello.
I gave the critic
silence. This is radio.
Oh heavens! I was giving you a dramatic pause there, seeing if you actually stopped jabbering away so that I could actually give you my score, which is 9 out of 10. I loved it. I was completely entertained. I didn't have a problem with any of the things Peter said at all. I thought it was good fun.
So are you sticking your middle finger up at Peter, are you?
Oh, no.
You are. Jackie, you're becoming crude, aren't you? You're becoming crude in your old age, Jack. Like, my God.
I think it was you that said that, Alex. It wasn't me.
That would never have been me, would it? Okay, so I'm giving it 8.5. Greg, you're going to be next cab off the rank. You're not going to be as vitriolic as Peter. Go for it.
No, I'll give it 6.5 to 7.
Okay. Peter, are you passing it? I think you are.
Yes, he is.
So I think you'll give it about a 6. What are you giving it?
You're spot on. Ian McKellen carries the film. The first half works well. Second half starts to peter off. So if you pardon the button.
Oh, Peter off. Actually, that's fantastic. You should have a blog. Peter off. I think that would suit you down to the ground. Peter R. Krause, Peter off. Right?
And I can see the signage, including a middle finger. Anyway.
Correct.
I give it 6 out of 10.
Right. Oh, gee. You're an apprentice at this. You notice the segue? All right. Thank you very much.
I just want to ask Peter one last question.
Please.
Did you enjoy yourself watching it?
Enjoy isn't the right word, because as it got to the second half of the film, I was starting to cringe a bit because the melodrama took over.
Okay.
Really? Oh, okay.
I read somewhere that the novel had a serial killer subplot in there that's been left out of the film altogether.
Oh, wow. All right. Interesting. So, folks, you're on JE. You're listening to this twaddle, and this is First on Film and Entertainment.
Everyone's a critic.
Everybody's a critic, and please keep listening regardless. If you want to become a member of the station, which I would encourage you to do, I've just stumped up my annual dues. It's only $54, and you're supporting a station that hopefully supports the community, and that's what we are all about. So go to j-air.com.au, j-air.com.au, and listen out 24 hours a day. If you would care to, although a bit of sleep wouldn't go astray every now and again. Talking about the segue to The Apprentice, and seeing we are we're counting down the days to the US presidential election, and it gets murkier and murkier as time goes on. And gee whiz, if you think my vitriol is bad, you go and live in America and get a slice of politics. Boy, oh boy. Just denouncing the individual has taken on new almighty steps in this election campaign. Having said all of that, The Apprentice is a 2-hour, 2-minute movie, rated MA, and long before The Donald was a fixture on US TV as host of The Apprentice, and of course later becoming president, he was this rather ambitious and young, aspiring real estate mogul. So this is a film from an Academy Award-nominated Iranian-Danish filmmaker called Ali Abbasi. And it takes that concept of the young, aspiring real estate mogul and runs with it. So how much of it is actual fact and how much is fiction? I reckon it's a matter of interpretation and political affiliation. So this is certainly upping the drama. So we're in New York in the 1970s. And at that time, the Big Apple was down and out. It was a rather blighted urban centre, lots of violent crime. And Donald Trump, as played by Sebastian Stan, was operating under the thumbnail of his wealthy and controlling father, Fred, a role filled by Martin Donovan. But Donald Trump wanted to see the city make a comeback. And that's when he encountered an arrogant, influential right-wing lawyer, a political fixer called Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong. He was the one this is Roy Cohn, who secured spy convictions against Julius and Ethel Rosenberg and investigated suspected communists alongside Joe McCarthy. So Cohn saw promise in Donald Trump and taught, I'll call him his new acolyte, taught Trump how to amass wealth and power through deception, intimidation, and media manipulation. Cohn was fiercely committed to advancing his own conservative ideology and relentlessly dominating any enemies who dared challenge him. And in the film, he shares 3 rules of winning with Trump. And Trump adopted those 3 rules. So we may as well share them. Attack, attack, attack. Admit nothing, deny everything, claim victory, and never admit defeat. And The Apprentice is about the rise and rise and rise of Donald Trump, who barged his way through life and through people with the attitude that they were indispensable. They were dispensable rather than indispensable with a capital D. It was all about furthering his own cause, be it professional or personal. The primary focus is on his relationship with Roy Cohn, and a subplot involves his subsequent wooing and treatment of his wife, Ivana, played by Maria Bakalova. The movie paints Trump as having his eyes opened wide by Cohn, and that results in the creation of an egotistical, self-centered monster of sorts who's deeply attracted to throwing his weight around. And he revels in riding roughshod over everyone. In other words, if he wants something, he'll get it, whatever the price. So Donald Trump himself, not the movie, has already come out and said that he's hardly enamoured by his representation in this film. Surprise, surprise, not. And I dare say anyone who watches it won't be surprised either to hear that. All I will say is I'll comment on The Apprentice as a movie. I'm not going to talk about the politics. I found it hideously compelling. What it presents is ugly and exploitative, but I couldn't turn away. And the writer, Gabrielle Sherman, has pulled no punches. And the director, Ali Abbasi, runs with it to the nth degree. And it's a movie that hits very, very hard. Its authenticity, or the authentic feel, comes down to the production values and the cinematography. Its grainy look effectively portrays the era. Caspar Tuxen, who did The Worst Person in the World, is the director of photography. Sebastian Stan, I think he does a really good job transitioning Trump from a somewhat naive operative to a megalomaniac. Jeremy Strong is really strong himself as Roy Conn. He matches Stan stride for stride, except in reverse, because the lifeblood is sucked out of him. And I also like the way that Maria Bakalova pushed back as Ivana, although one scene involving her in domestic violence, I just found it just so distressing. Trump's treatment of his wife in the film, once the gloss wears off, is appalling. The Apprentice is a movie, well, it's a cautionary tale about power and corruption that I reckon you feel like taking a shower after watching. And so it's a guilty type pleasure film for me. That was my assessment of The Apprentice. What about you, Greg King?
This is an American horror story playing out here, I think. Look, what do you think of him? Donald Trump is one of the most controversial and divisive figures in contemporary politics at the moment, like him or loathe him. And I can see why him and his campaign tried to ban this film from being released, especially in America, in the lead up to the election, because it's not exactly the most flattering portrait of a person. And as you said, it's been written by Gabriel Sherman, who apparently has interviewed Trump several times in his career. But this is here, it takes its title from that reality TV show that ran the 15 seasons that Trump hosted for most of the time there. But ironically here, it's Trump who is the apprentice to Roy Cohn, himself a controversial figure, a pugnacious, unscrupulous lawyer who also had a key role in that play, Angels in America, which exposed his true nature there. Cohn, in the 50s, he, as you mentioned, the Rosenbergs, but he was also a key player in the McCarthy witch hunt trials of that communist witch hunt era there. So he's a despicable person here. And as you said, I think Jeremy Strong from Succession plays him to the hilt here. He captures him, his chilling nature, his predatory slick nature there, who, as he exerts a Svengali-like influence over the young narcissistic Trump there. He captures his bullying style, his cold persona, and his quietly menacing nature. And I think the chemistry between him and Sebastian Stan, who plays Trump, is quite palpable here and brings the material alive. And I agree with you about the way the film depicts that decaying New York of the 70s and early 80s there as a decaying, sleazy, corrupt cesspool. Great production design there. The use of some archival footage integrated carefully into there as well. And the cinematographer, Caspar Tuxen, gives the material that nostalgic 80s feel with the grainy, brownish colour palette there. But yeah, Trump here comes across as narcissistic, selfish, and there's a couple of another scene that I had to look away from, not that scene the way he treats Ivana, but also that scene when he undergoes some surgery, liposuction, and has part of his scalp removed so he can implant hair follicles there. I had to look away at that bit too. That was sort of disgusting there as well. And I didn't think there was much about Ivana here. I thought her role was fairly thankless there. Martin Donovan did a good job as the unsympathetic and condescending and aloof Fred Trump there. Yeah, I thought this was it wasn't intended to be a hit piece on Donald Trump, but it does show where he came from, and you can see a lot of how he's run his campaign, how he's run politics from this portrait here, where, as you said, he learnt his playbook from Roy Cohn.
Peter, do you have any conception of how you determine fact from fiction? Because you look at this and you think surely a lot of this stuff couldn't be true.
Well, it's an interesting question because this is certainly not a documentary. It's about the formative years of Trump. But I know that a lot of it is true because They had lawyers. They did a lot of checking to make sure that it was not able to be. They couldn't sue the filmmakers because most of it is based on fact, on what Ivana has spoken about interviews and a whole range of things. So, look, this film surprised me. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this. I thought this was going to be another exploitative political drama, and it turned out to be a well-written, by Gabriel Sharman, and well-directed film, which gave you an insight into the character of Donald Trump and the way he is now. And so let's leave the politics aside. I actually thought Maria Bakalova did a good job in her role as Ivana, because she stands out as being reasonably strong and independent against a difficult person who she was attracted to in the first place, which I found interesting in itself. And yes, Roy Cohn is an amazing character, played by Jeremy Strong. And as you mentioned, Greg, Angels in America showed what a despicable, manipulative character he was, and how he was able to influence a somewhat naive Donald Trump.
But this is a surprising bit, Peter, isn't it? I mean,
yes,
we because I suppose that I'm not sure whether you could watch The American Apprentice in Australia or whatever. We didn't really have that history with him. We've only known him to be this sort of the bully boy tactics that he employed after losing the last election, etc. That really put him on the map, and self-confidence and all that sort of stuff. So to see him in the infancy, I found that fascinating.
Yes, absolutely. And that was so well directed and written. But I also need to give a shout out to the editor, who has put together a range of sequences, so much information, historical events, archival footage, and so on, but edited it together in such a way that it is quite compelling. It could have been quite a dreary sort of film and just one step after another, but it actually is really well shot and well edited.
And even if you thought you knew about Trump, and again, I don't know how much is fact and how much is fiction, but even if you thought you knew about Trump, this sort of opens your eyes. That's what I reckon.
It does. It gives you an idea of what created the person that he is now, and the role of the father, and how he was so dominating and always hated Trump, but also his brother, Trump's brother, who is a character that is such a sad depiction of poor treatment by a family, especially, by the father in particular. So there's a lot going on there. And I really quite liked the film, which surprised me. I didn't think I was going to.
Now,
I was just wondering what someone like Oliver Stone would have done with this material, given his sort of incendiary style of filmmaking.
Yes, it would have been much more melodramatic, and I think much more over the top, I think.
Yeah, could well have been. Jacqui, I can only imagine how you reacted to some of the scenes in this one.
Well, you don't need to imagine. I'll tell you if you like.
Well, Jacqui, the floor is yours. You just go for the jugular, please.
I'm possibly unlike you. I did have a little bit of a feeling for what Trump was like before he suddenly stepped onto the presidential stage, at least in contention for it, and started becoming better known. And that was through the Celebrity Apprentice TV show, which I used to watch. And that ran from 2008 to 2015. So it was...
Oh, Jacqui, are you still there? We've suddenly lost you.
Nevertheless...
Sorry, Jacqui, you pardon me, Jacqui, you actually cut out for the best part of 20 seconds there, so we didn't hear you.
Oh, no, my pearls of wisdom have gone off into cyberspace.
Sorry, that's presuming you have some. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. And you missed them. Never mind. I'll go on. I did enjoy the TV show The Celebrity Apprentice. And that did give me some of what his character was like in being a fervent capitalist and a bully, even though it was sanitised, probably, for the tea. Okay, Peter's off. For the tea. We just want to know that you win at the end, Peter. So I did get an idea of what his character was like before he became a president, or at least started going into that race. What I liked about this film was everything that you have said. It was dramatisation, and it didn't seem to be trying to be a hit piece, as I think Peter said, because so much of it is based on fact, and it keeps feeding us that with the actual archival footage. And we're seeing Ronald Reagan, and we're seeing how all of that politics and what was going on in New York was being fed into his character. I think, as a polarising person prominent in the world today, it's good to see this film and know how much came from his father and how much from Roy Cohn. And as Peter said, also, it was thoroughly enjoyable. It's the character development that I really liked. We start up.
Are you in the middle of talking? These trucks, there's heavy machinery. I think they're carrying out roadworks while you're talking to us. We're losing you, Jackie. Are you?
No, it's not coming. It's not actually coming from me. I think it's coming from Peter. Never mind. As I say, yes, I really enjoyed The Apprentice.
Peter, are you sure the Grand Prix isn't early again? What the heck's going on here, eh? You're drowning out poor Jackie. She's such a timid, person to begin with, and you don't want to demean her any further. That's not good. Jackie.
The other thing about the film Apprentice, I think, is that it could potentially have been a lot more controversial. It could have really gone in hard on a whole lot of stuff, but it pulls back through that.
Don't you think it did?
Oh no, I think it pulls back a lot because it gives us explanation for things. We might not like what we see, but we kind of understand it in a way.
It's funny. Again, I call on the quote that I used before: "Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely." Don't you think there's some truism in that, in terms of The Apprentice as well, Jackie?
Well, yes, well, definitely in referring to Roy Cohn and then how he passes that on to Donald Trump, the young, impressionable Donald Trump, who finds whose father dominates him and doesn't give him the praise or support that he actually wants, or the approval that he wants, and Roy Cohn sees potential in Donald Trump and encourages that behaviour. That gives him an alternative father figure, if you like, an alternative approving father figure.
I found it interesting in the context that he could obviously see that if he sort of champions him through and that in the future he's going to be able to use that relationship to his advantage. Because, why was Con doing it? That initially I was thinking, what's he to gain? Well,
exactly that. He's manipulative. He says that from the start. He actually says, don't pay for the suit. Don't pay for the suit. I'll cover that. He says, I'll get it back from you later on.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're all going to give this very good marks. I'm going to kick it off. This is The Apprentice, rated MA, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 8 out of 10 for me. Jackie?
8 out of 10 from me.
Peter?
Yes, good film, 7 out of 10.
Greg?
I'm going to be a low ball here, 6 out of 10, just because I don't like Donald Trump.
No, can you?
He's such an impartial critic.
Really? Oh, mate, I love you dearly. That's very, very...
Hey, Greg, I reckon Donald Trump's going to sue you now.
Yeah, I was going to say, mate.
Look, there's enough people instead of me going to prison like Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, that I don't have to worry about it. George Clooney, he's going to jail them before he yards this to me.
Okay, yeah, but Greg, can you distance your disdain for him and give me a mark for a movie rather than for Donald Trump?
I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Still, I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, we're limited in time, but I want to talk about Joker, Folie à Deux, MA rated 2 hours and 18 minutes. Second instalment of Joker, really controversial. A musical? Who would have thunk it, eh? Right? Notwithstanding that there's Lady Gaga there. Hardly mainstream entertainment. It's got the feel of a strong and decidedly dark, independent movie, which I actually appreciated because of the layers within it. And like he did so brilliantly in Joker, Joaquin Phoenix is quite a revelation as Arthur Fleck, a.k.a. Joker. He's in prison, awaiting trial for the murder spree that Joker went on, slaying 6 people in quick time, including one on live television. And he appears to be this forlorn character, not responding to the guards' taunts to tell him a joke. One who does reward him for good behaviour, though, is Jackie Sullivan, played by Brendan Gleeson, who takes him along to a music therapy session, and that's where he connects with an inmate by the name of Lee Quinzel, a.k.a. Harley Quinn. That's the Lady Gaga role. And she claims she's from the same neighbourhood as Arthur Fleck and had a terrible home life, being institutionalised by her mother. She is driven to Joker, and Joker is driven to her, or Arthur Fleck is driven to her. The pair starts an intense relationship in which they fantasise about what might be. Meanwhile, Fleck's legal representative, Marianne Stewart, played by Catherine Keener, is trying to convince him to play along with her defence strategy of a split personality. In other words, he didn't do it, it was my alter ego. The court case sees a groundswell of support for Joker. Lee, who is Lee Quinzel, who's increasingly influencing Arthur Fleck's decision-making, is at odds with his lawyer. And basically, the former, who has adopted the Harley Quinn makeup and dress sense, tells Arthur Fleck that he can do anything. Right, so Lee Quinzel says, you can do anything you want. Written by Scott Silver and directed by Todd Phillips, the combination behind Joker, Folie à Deux delves deep into mental illness and psychosis. So dreams and hallucinations play a large part. And this is often when Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix are seen singing together. And in one scene, Phoenix actually resorts to tap dancing. I thought there was a potent connection between them. I thought Gleeson was memorable as the guard who gives Fleck some latitude. And I also appreciated the cameo of Steve Coogan as a tabloid television interviewer, Paddy Myers, who the legal eagle Stewart lines up to question Arthur Fleck before the trial. Music is an undoubted feature of the work, and although I dare say a lot of people, as they already have, will find that out of place, not me. I thought the choices were appropriate. So too the period production values that are associated with this movie. Look, it is divisive. It's divisive among critics. It's divisive among the fee-paying public, many of whom will find it hard going and not to their liking. Apart from thinking that it was 20 minutes too long, but I'm in the positive camp. I mean, I thought what Phoenix, Gaga and the writers and director brought to the table was actually a compelling dive into the abyss that's the essence of a troubled mind or two, as is the case in the representation of both Joker and Harley Quinn. So yeah, I might be in the minority, but I appreciated the film. People who are going along thinking it's going to be a replica of the first, well, it's not, and it never should have been. So, what's the problem with it, Jackie?
I don't have a problem with it at all. I did struggle with it to start with because there is a thought that when you're going into it as a sequel, that you're going to see something of the same genre or feel, but I thought, in reflection, that it actually grew a lot more from the original, which I really enjoyed. I didn't enjoy this as much, but I could see why it was like it is. As John McDonald in the Financial Review calls it, possibly the most depressing musical of all time. The songs weren't my favourite thing about it. I didn't like the choices of songs all the time, and I didn't like, because I didn't feel they drove the narrative. It was in my mind, did Lady Gaga choose these because she likes them and she sings them well? And I think a lot of the songs were the fault that made the film too long. However, that aside, I did I did like the way that it presented the mental disorder scenario, the fantasy sequences, and the mental mayhem, if you like, and the influence of others on him and on the Joker and Joker on the others. The courtroom scene, it made sense to me of why it was done this way. And I think the film, The Joker 2, was brave, and it was sad, and as you say, compelling, partly repulsive. It had a lot in it that wasn't lovely, but it made sense to me.
Yeah, now, Peter, only in 40 seconds, and Greg as well, I'm afraid we could talk a bit further next week. Did you like it or not, Peter?
I'm on the fence with this one because I think it was a bit of a mess in terms of its fusion of music. Some of the songs seemed irrelevant, and the idea of bipolar, not split personality, that term doesn't exist, which I thought Joker was...
I've just created it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Greg King, in 40 seconds.
This is a bleak mix of prison drama, courtroom drama, old-fashioned musical, but I thought it's a little clunky. The tone is uneven. Not every element works there, and I feel it was overly long at 138 minutes for what it had to say. And it lacked the same sense of dramatic tension and unease as the original, but Joaquin Phoenix was great in it with his performance there, but I don't think there was any real chemistry between him and Lady Gaga.
Really? Okay, score out of 10, Peter?
I give it 5 out of 10.
Greg?
5 out of 10.
Jackie?
7 out of 10.
8 out of 10 for mine. Thank you very much for your valuable contribution, Jacqueline. Thank you, Peter Krause. Thank you, Gregory King. You've been listening to First on Film and Entertainment, and we are going to be doing it again awfully soon. So listen out. Have a great week, folks.